live. First and foremost, give the honor and praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Give the double honors to 71 brothers, South Chicago, and talk with his truth. Give the double honors to all the brothers and sisters that you pray they have to welcome in these last days. That they said, peace and shalom. We're going to do a live cap today. We're going to be talking about the destruction and the dismantling of the system that has been on the scene for the past 500 years. That's the European common market system. And a lot of people out here, they don't even know what's about to take place on the scene. See? So we're just going to go into some scripture today. We're going to be dealing with the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation. We're going to expound on some things real quick. And we're going to see where it takes us today, right? So the first book that we're going to be reading from, we're going to be looking at the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation in the first verse. And it says, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven onto the earth." Who is that star talking about? The star is basically talking about the adversary. Because it's basically the adversary that has basically taken over the world that we live in today. Contrary to popular belief, most people think that the Most High is basically ruling in the affairs of man, and that's basically part of the truth. But really the rulership that the Creator has given on the face of this planet is an adversary. Most people of today, they have what you would call the mark of the beast. And the mark of the beast is basically the doctrine and the teaching and the philosophy of the adversary, right? So it says, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him it was given the keys of the what? Of the bottomless pit." And, you know, most church people, they believe that the bottomless pit is somewhere, you know, imaginary hell and things of this nature. But in actuality, the bottomless pit is basically the kingdom and the rulership of the planet that we're living in today, right? So let me read that over. It says, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit." And like I said, the key symbolizes what? Rulership and authority, right? So now we see that the adversary is ruling over what? The affairs of man, which is living on the earth today. This is why you see a lot of things going on with the elites that's ruling in the world today. And it ain't just America. It's all these folks that's ruling in the affairs of men, right? On how the elites destroy the air, they destroy the water, they destroy the food, and they destroy the mindset of the people, right? And they destroy the whole planet. So, right? So let's look at another scripture. Let's go into 13th chapter of the book of Revelation. 13th chapter of the book of Revelation, right? I'm going to start at the first verse. It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns." And like basically, the 7 heads represent seven kingdoms or 7 rulerships that rule in the affairs of men. So the first one is Babylon, or the Tower of Babel that was established by Nimrod. Number 2 is the Egyptian world power. Number 3 is the Assyrian world power. Number 4 is Chaldean Empire under Nebuchadnezzar. Number 5 is the Medo-Persian Empire. Number 6 is the Grecian Empire. And number 7 is the Roman Empire, right? So it says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and the 10 crowns represent what? The 10 crowns represents the European common market system. But see, it wasn't always the European common market system. It was the 10 horns, or the 10 kingdoms that came out of what? Out of the Roman Empire, right? Starting with what you would call the Vandals, the Suevites, the Franks, the Visigoths, you know, all these different Caucasian or European kingdoms that came out of what you would call the Caucasus Mountains, that eventually came over and started to fight against the Roman Empire, right? When Rome had failed as a nation. But basically over a period of time, they end up metastasizing into these nations now. When we look at England, France, England, France, Germany, you know what I'm saying, all these different nations and stuff like that. So those are like the 10 horns. So it says 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his crown, and it says upon his horn 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. So how you blaspheme the Creator? One of the ways that you're going to blaspheme the Creator is by doing what? Doing things that's contrary. And one of the blasphemies that the nations have done is that they have set up what you would call the old Roman Empire, right? That is coming in the spirit of Nimrod. See? It's because all these nations that's ruling today, they still have what you would call the spirit of Nimrod. See? And they still worshiping his doctrine and his teaching even to this day. That's where you get the cross from. That's where you get the virgin birth. That's where you get Easter and Christmas, right? All these things. And how are they blaspheming the Creator? On how they treat the planet, see? How they treat the earth. See, you can't be of the Creator and then create mechanisms in the earth to do what? To destroy the water. See, this is the basis of man, on how they destroy the water, they destroy the food. You can't be a follower of the Creator if you will turn around and say that you are about the Creator, and then you turn around and destroy the food on purpose. A lot of this food that we eating today is genetically modified food, right? So this is another way that they blaspheme the Creator. What is another way? On taking away the mindset of the people away from the Creator, and then placing a new mindset on the people, right? What is a new mindset? We got this Aleister Crowley spirit, what you would call do thou wilt. See, anything goes in this system today. See, you could be a homosexual, and you know that's looked upon as what? Obedient behavior, right? You could go around conquering the world and put the nations in servitude under a rigorous form of servitude, and it's looked upon as obedient behavior. That's called democracy and capitalism, right? Or how you take all the natural resources out of the planet, right? And then you try to harbor all the natural resources, and then you assassinate the people that the natural resources belong to in the first place. right? So this is how they blaspheme the Creator. But the number one thing is that instead of us following what you would call Yah, right, we're basically following after Nimrod. But see, Nimrod is called by a different name today. See, instead of calling him Nimrod, we're calling him what? Jesus the Christ, right? Or what they would call Yahweh Shah. See, but we don't even understand that it's because the world today has been given a false Messiah, right? So let's go back to the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation. The 9th chapter of the book of Revelation, in the first verse, and it says, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit." And the bottomless pit symbolizes what? The moral decay and the destruction that the earth is going through, right? So the God of this world that we're living in today is the adversary. See, it's because the Creator gave the adversary a time and a period to rule. It's because the nations, the people today, starting with the foreparents, we willfully started to worship the adversary when we started to look at ourselves as gods and going against the person that the being or the it that created us, right? So it says, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there awoke, it says, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of the great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit. And what does the smoke in the pit symbolize? It's all these different chaotic wars, chaos, pestilence, right? That's going on in the earth. Like I just said, the people or the elites that's ruling the world today, they under the influence of the adversary. So this is the nations going to war against each other, right? This is the nations tearing up the planet. So when we're looking at the smoke and the burning in the bottomless pit, it just symbolizes the chaotic state that the earth is in. It's because of the rulership of the adversary on the planet. What the sun represent, right? The sun represent who? The sun represents the Babylonian mystery system. That's what the sun represents. And the people today are still worshiping the Babylonian mystery system of today. See, when the Tower of Babel, and see, the Tower of Babel only symbolizes what? The rulership, or one of the first rulerships of the adversary and the planet and the affairs of men, right? So who was the first one to establish order in the earth under the rulership of the adversary? It was Nimrod. So we go back to, as a matter of fact, let's get it. Let's go to the 10th chapter of the book of Genesis. So the 10th chapter of the book of Genesis says, in the 8th verse, and Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. And see, a lot of people don't even know the history of Nimrod and how he became a mighty man in the earth. See, it's because he was the first one after the flood to establish law and order in the earth, right? So it says, and he was a mighty hunter before Yah, wherefore it is said, even Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yah, right? But he wasn't hunting tigers and bears. He was hunting what? people. See? So when we look at America and how America was established, America came on the scene the same way as Nimrod did when he started to conquer the worlds of the cities or different islands that was basically around him. So this is some of the things that he was doing. It says in the 10th verse, and it says in the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, right? Because it wasn't necessarily called Babel. Babel means confusion. So one of the things that he did was he established himself as what? The Messiah in the earth. And you know, if you look at the Hebrew word for Messiah, it means what? Anointed one. So who are you anointed by? You got to be anointed by the Creator. So when he came on the scene, he declared himself as the anointed one of the Most High, right? And he deceived the masses. And the masses started to follow after his teachings. So we're looking at the sun in the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation. What does the sun do? A sun is basically a beacon of light. The sun, you need the sun for crops. You need the sun. You get vitamin D from the sun. The sun have a lot of properties to it. Also, you can heal disease from the sun. You can use the sun for electricity. The sun is used for a lot. It has a lot of properties and a lot of meanings for basically the sun, right? We know that the moon is used to control the tides and things of this nature, dealing with the oceans and stuff like that. But the sun is basically a big star, right? So when Nimrod came on the scene, he was looked upon as the beacon of light, and everybody was following him. This is where you get Christmas from. This is where you get Easter. This is where you get the cross, right? This is where you get Sunday worship. Is because when we look at the concept of Sunday, or the first day of the week, right? This is the nations or the people around about worshiping Nimrod as what? The beacon of light. So let's go back to the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation, right? So when it says, and the sun in the air, so the sun represents the beacon of light that the people are worshiping, right? So like I just said, like America, the European common market system, whether it's Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, they're all worshiping Hinduism, Buddhism, all these different philosophies out there. They all get their philosophy and their teaching back from Genesis, the 10th chapter, and the 9th verse. Genesis, the 10th chapter, dealing with Nimrod. Because if you look up, if you go into the history of Buddha, Buddha is nothing but another form of the worship system of Nimrod, or what they would call the Tamil, right? So it says, and the sun and the air were darkened, right? So the world today that we living in, you know, I'm not a Mason, but you know, when you're dealing with masonry, you get your degrees of knowledge, right? So the highest degree is 33. It's really 32. So when you look at water freezes at 32 degrees, right? So in Freemasonry, you get an honorary degree, which is 33 degrees. So you have like 33 degrees of knowledge, right? But in actuality, water freezes at 32 degrees. So you don't start warming up until you hit 183 degrees And once you be on fire, or you have knowledge, wisdom, or understanding, or the ability to live forever, you have what you will call 360 degrees of knowledge. So when we look at, when it says, and the sun and the air were darker, we look at a lot of scientists and things in this nature that understand how to split the atom and know about true science and stuff like that, but they only have 32 degrees of knowledge, right? So the whole planet, or the Earth, even though we're in a hot day today, I think it's about 80 degrees, from a spiritual standpoint of view, the world today is frozen at 32 degrees of knowledge, right? So when we're looking at all of the technology, like I said, to be able to split the atom, to be able to control the weather, you got scientists, they know how to, like you deal with stem cells and things of this nature, they know how to make embryos out of stem cells. That's still what you would call 32 degrees of knowledge, because the world is in a chaotic state. That's why we don't really have no snow out here in Chicago and various parts of the world, is because they have done what? They have destroyed the planet. See, when you start messing with the Earth atmosphere and stuff like that, what happens is it shakes up the planet. So you have a lot of brilliant people that understand philosophy, they understand how to grow food in a cold climate, but in actuality, they're frozen at 32 degrees. They don't have 360 degrees of knowledge because of what they're doing today. So what's happening is, the world today that we're living in is in a chaotic state. You know, in the book, let's get that. Let's turn to the 2nd chapter of the book of Genesis. And I'm going to start reading the 9th verse, right? I'm going to start at the 8th verse. It says that Yah Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed, right? So, a lot of people, like when you deal with, you got a lot of brothers and sisters that deal with Afrocentric studies, or the study of Egypt. Most of them think that civilization started in the Nile Valley. But in actuality, civilization started in Mesopotamia, over there in Northeast Africa. So when the Bible is talking about, when it says, and the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, that's over there in what you would call Mesopotamia, over there in what they would call Iraq today, right? So the Garden of Eden is basically the whole entire planet. Because before a lot of these things started to take place, in terms of mankind starting to rebel against the Creator, right? The planet was originally supposed to be in a heavenly state. So most people, they believe that when you die, you're going to go off to heaven. But see, the Bible don't teach that, right? Heaven was supposed to be on this planet because man and woman, or the human family, was supposed to live what you would call a heavenly existence, or an everlasting life existing on the planet. So when we talk about heaven, right, heaven is supposed to be here. because we had all the natural resources. The air was clean, the water was clean, and the human family was supposed to, they wasn't even supposed to eat meat, right? We were supposed to be what you would call fruitarians or herbivores, right? But through the rebellion of the human family, the earth is in the caps. We're living in hell today. That's why we dying today. That's why it don't matter if you as a vegetarian or a fruitarian, you may live a little longer. You may look better than the average person. Like say if you're about 57, you may look younger than a person that's a regular person that eat meat and he's 57 years old. But eventually you still gonna die. Why you gonna die? It's because the air is bad, right? The soil is bad. The water is bad. You know, well, I can go get some water from the store that has good pH balance. There's no such thing as good water. So a lot of the water that you're paying for, that's $6 and $7, $10, in actuality, is contaminated water, right? Because really, water is a good water. Water supposed to run wild, right? That's why you got oceans, and that's why you got streams and stuff like that, because the minerals that you get from the water gets its minerals from the rocks, right? So a lot of this water that we're getting from the store, whether it's $5 or $6 or $10 and things of this nature, it's bogus water, right? So let's finish. I don't want to go too far off. So it says, and Yah Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden. It says, and there he put the man, talking about woman and man, because a woman is a man too. She just got a womb. A man plants the seed, and the woman is supposed to sprout out what? The seed that the man planted, right? So when it's talking about he put the man whom he had formed, even though the man, you know, he comes first, but it's symbolic. It's really the man and the woman, because a woman is a man also. She just has a womb. She's supposed to bring forth the child. The man supposed to plant the seed. So it says he put the man whom he had formed, and out of the ground he made, it says, and out of the ground made Yahel to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. And what is that? That's the natural resources, right? That's the gold, that's the silver, that's the platinum. That's all the minerals in the ground. That's the fruit and things of this nature. See, people don't even know that the food that you eat, I'll give you an example. The watermelon that we eat today is not the same watermelon from 400 years ago, right? The watermelon from 400 years ago is totally different from the watermelon that we eat today. So when people talking about that they eat 100% food, men have always been splicing food, right? But the food and stuff like that he's talking about in the scriptures is basically what? This is what's going to sustain the man. You got to have good water. You got to have good air. Your diet got to be correct, right? These are the things that's going to do what? Sustain the man. And what else is going to have to sustain a man? You got to have good soil, right? You got to have good food to sustain a man, like I just said. the food that we were supposed to be eating was fruits and vegetables. But we're not eating that today, right? We eat those things, but that's not really a part of our diet. It's because of the fall of humanity, right? So it says, now that the ground made Yahweh to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, and the tree of life also in the midst of the garden. And what is the tree of life, right? The tree of life is the spirit of Yah. That's the tree of life. So when we're talking about the Lord God, we're talking about what? The Tetragrammaton. The human family is supposed to have a connection with the Creator. That's the tree of life. Now, you know, most Christians or different people, they'll try to say that the tree of life is something physical, that it's a physical tree. No, it's basically symbolic of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the Most High Yah. That's 360 degrees of knowledge. Like I said before, the human family is frozen at 32 degrees. Like I just said, the water freezes at 32 degrees. So we looking at society and things of this nature today, it may seem like you have what you do. You have brilliant people. They create a lot of things, but they frozen at 32 degrees. Meaning that what? They in suspended animation, and they don't even understand that, right? So we're talking about the tree of life. The tree of life is what they will call the Tetragrammaton, the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, right? So that's what's sustaining the human family, is because Yah is the one that created the human family, right? So we go back to the book of Revelation, the 9th chapter, and it says, and I'm going to start at the first verse. And the 5th angel sounded and saw a star fall from heaven. Like I said before, the star is symbolic of the adversary, because I believe when you go, I think it's the 19th chapter of the book of Revelation, when it talks about how or the 12th chapter of the book of Revelation, when it talks about how the adversary fell when the Creator kicked him out of the spiritual realm. He fell amongst the human family, right? So when it says, I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, that's the adversary. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So the bottomless pit is symbolic of what? The rulership and the power over the human family. And this is what the human family is following after today. See, they don't even know that they're following the adversary, right? So it says, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of the great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit. So we go into the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation is just basically symbolic speak. It's just like how black folks in the ghetto, we don't speak proper English. We speak what? We speak slang, right? So this is basically the Creator speaking symbolic or poetic to the human family. And see, the only people that's really going to get that is the ones that the Creator done awoken in their conscience, or what they would call the spirit, right? So the bottomless pit, or the smoke that's coming out of the bottomless pit is the earth, see? And the smoke and the fire and stuff that's coming out of the bottomless pit is what? All the wars and all the chaotic state of the planet. See, that's the bottomless pit. And the sun is represent what? the worship system of the Babylonian mystery system. That's the sun. It's because when we go back to the 10th chapter of the book of Revelation, Nimrod was the beacon of light. That's who everybody is worshiping. Here's a quick example, right? When you look at the Pope, right? It's because the Pope is he's really coming in the spirit of Nimrod himself, right? So when you look at the Pope, when he's down praying on the ground, and he has what you would call, quote unquote, the picture of the black Jesus and all this type of stuff, that's not Yahshua. See, the black Madonna that he's worshiping in his office is really Semiramis and Tammuz. That's who he's worshiping. So the people today, like in the age of enlightenment, on how when you saw Vladimir Putin bring out those books called, he brought out these books called the Russian Icons, right? And I've been talking about the Russian icons for the past maybe 10 or 12 years, right? So in the Russian icons, you got like the newer versions, and then you got the older versions. The older versions depict a lot of the Israelites as black folks, because before iconoclasm, that's how we look. See, we was dark-skinned people, because in actuality, the Bible is really the so-called Negro's history. But because the so-called Negro has been taken into captivity, and what we deal with iconoclasm is the whitewashing of black icons throughout history. So you got Vladimir Putin, because he's upset with the United States and the Jewish community. Now he's starting to bring out a lot of these, what you would call, ancient pictures that was depicting a lot of our ancestors 2,000 years ago. But one of the icons that he had in his office, a lot of people think that's quote unquote Yahshua or Jesus and things of this nature, but in actuality, that's not him. See, that's really the reincarnation of what they would call Nimrod, right? So the sun represents the Babylonian mystery system that we still following today, because what is Babel? Babel is symbolic of what? Confusion. That's why in the first verse in the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation, when it talks about the smoke and the burning and stuff like that, that's the confusion that's going on in the human family. That's why you got all these different wars in the country. It's because the world today don't even understand that we already, see, they talking about quote-unquote World War III, but we don't even understand that we already in World War III. See, World War III has already started. And it's estimated that it's about 6 or 7 billion people on the planet. When these nuclear weapons go off, and they're going to shoot nuclear weapons, it's going to be approximately probably about maybe about 100,000 people. This is how much people is going to be killed, not just in America, but all over, right? It's because the world today is worshiping the Babylonian mystery system that was established after the flood, right? So it says, third verse. And what does the air symbolize? I had to get back to that too. The air symbolizes what? The philosophy and teaching of the Babylonian mystery system. See? Because the Babylonian mystery system, it comes in different forms. See, back then, everybody knew what the situation was. See, and you had a lot of people, they willfully was following that way of thinking. But like now, it's in a different form today. What is one of the forms that is in? Politics, religion, and what you would call social living. See, America today is the old modern day Roman Empire of yesterday, or the old Babylonian mystery system of yesterday. The European common market system, Islam, Judaism, all of that is the modern day Babylonian mystery system. Because behind the scenes, they got you thinking that they worship the Creator, but behind the scenes, they worshiping the adversary, right? So it says the third verse, and it says, and there came up out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, and as the scorpion of the earth have power, right? And what does the locust stand? What does this locust stand for? The locust is symbolic of masses of people, armies, tanks, helicopters. But back in the day, they didn't have helicopters back in the day, right? It was basically masses of people and different technology that they was creating to do what? Conquer the world. So coming out of the smoke in the bottomless pit is the scorpions or the locusts. The locust is symbolic of what? The masses of people. Because if you deal with farming, right? A lot of farmers that deal with farming, they can have what you would call a mice or a rat infestation, or they can have a locust infestation. So what does the locust do? They eat up the crops. That's why a lot of times when you deal with farming, right, a farmer will tell you that that if you have like a small locust infestation on the crops, they gotta hurry up and they gotta get rid of that. It's because if the locust infestation get worse, it's gonna do what? It's gonna eat up. They're gonna eat up all the crops. They're gonna eat up all of the crops that they've been planting, right? So what does the locust symbolizes in the 3rd verse of the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation? The locust symbolizes the elites and the armies of the elites going around conquering the world. And so you got to look at the people and the elites, the armies and the elites that the people is following. You got to look at the earth as what? Like a farmer. So if you get these infestation of locusts, what they gonna do? They gonna bite up all of the fruit, whatever crops that you got down in the earth, they gonna eat that. And this is what America, this is what you would call white supremacy has done throughout the year. We talking about in this day. Because this modern day Babylonian mystery system that we dealing with is what you would call the Euro-Gentile world power system, or white supremacy today. And what they have bitten up, what have they taken over, what have they bitten up today? What's up, bro? I'm good, man. I'm good, man. So, what has the white man bit up today? Since he's the locust of today, he has taken over what? The natural resources. No, actually. Right? I actually don't want to. If you read this book called the economic, what is it called? The Confessions of an Economic Hitman, right? By, I think his name, David Perkins. He used to work for the government, right? And he talked about how they use various different organizations to come in and spy out the land. What are some of the organizations that they do, that they use? The Peace Corps and all these different quote-unquote peaceful organizations. They use these organizations to come in and to persuade the leadership of the countries to work with them. And if the leadership of the countries don't want to work with them, then they start to send out what you would call assassins to assassinate the leaders so that they can take over and control their natural resources. What is another way that they do it? Another way that they control the people is by doing what? I mean, to try to take over different people's lands is to set up a central banking system where they loan people certain amounts of money. So when the people can't pay back the debt of the money, then they come in and they take over the natural resources. So let's go back to the 1400s, or what you would call Christopher Columbus and a lot of them that was coming over to what you would call the New World to take over this country. What was one of the people that they used to bring forth peace, right? They brought forth what? The Christians. See? They brought forth the Christians. So, you know, you had Christopher Columbus, which followed Judaism, but under King Ferdinand and what's her name? King Ferdinand and Princess Isabella, they allowed those people to come over here to try to take over the land in quote-unquote a peaceful manner. Well, how did they do that? They came over here promoting what you would call Christianity. And then, once they lullabied the people to sleep with Christianity and things of this nature, then they started to come in with the war tanks or the technology that they had back then. And they started to take over the land by what? By force. See? And then they started setting up what you would call land colleges and things of this nature in the country. The colleges and stuff like that we go to today are nothing but modern day colonialism schools that set up during the time that they created what you would call the New World. If you go back into history, right? Because you can't even read the Bible if you don't understand history, right? So you got this thing of George Washington chopping down the cherry tree, right? That is basically symbolic of George Washington conquering the dark-skinned nations that was ruling over here in America before they stepped foot. Because these were what you would call, you know, they like to call it the Moorish Empire, but Moor only means black, right? So these were the dark-skinned indigenous people that was ruling in America, different nations and stuff like that. You had different tribes that had already had a governmental structure that was over here, right? Before the so-called white man came over from Europe, right? So when they came over here pushing a false form of the Israelite history, which is what? Christianity. That's what they was pushing, right? That you had to, in order for you to be saved, you had to come up under the umbrella of Jesus Christ. But in actuality, what is that? They was giving you a false Messiah right there. That's history, right? So in the midst of them doing this, the next thing you know, they started to do what? They started to slaughter the people. You can go into history, right? One of the ways for them to destroy the people, they had what they would call the Indians. They had to destroy the buffalo. It's because, you know, on Thanksgiving, they say that the Pilgrims and the Indians sat down. They was, you know, they was eating and things of this nature. They was trading with one another. That's false history. It's because the so-called white man, when he came over here, he had to learn how to survive to survive in America. It's because they didn't know how to survive. They was dying. So the Indians taught them how to survive here in America. So their contribution was they started to slaughter the Native Americans, and they took the country, right? So when we go into the third verse, it says, "And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and upon them was given power, as scorpions of the earth have power," right? Because what is one of the power of the scorpion? One of the powers of the scorpion is the sting, right? Because the sting can either be poisonous or it can be not poisonous. Because they say that a non-poisonous scorpion is just as deadly as a poisonous scorpion, right? Because when a scorpion or a snake bites you, the venom that they put in your body, it turns your blood into slush, right? So your body, you need blood circulation in order for you to move and move about and go throughout the day. If your body is slushy, if your blood is slushy, you're gonna have a lot of problems, right? So when it's talking about the scorpion and its sting, it's talking about the sting of the rulers that was doing what? Conquering the people, right? So what I'm gonna do is, man, I just wanted to come out and do a little quick little video. I got somewhere to go today, but later on today we're gonna finish the 9th chapter of the book of Revelations. Shalom.